Right, right. And that doesn't happen.
Right. And so what happens is if you struggle with perfectionism, look at the areas in your life where you struggle with perfectionism. And what I can tell you is those are probably the areas where you deal with a fear of shame. So if it's very important to you that your family look a certain way and that your marriage look a certain way, that you probably have some real deep shame issues around, I'm afraid if people see what's really happening, I won't be worthy of connection and acceptance.
You say that shame leads to disconnection. So how do we reconnect? Let's say we realize, hey, I've dealt with this emotion and I want to reconnect. How do I do that?
You know, it's funny because there's an irony. There's a lot of ironies, I guess, about shame. And one of the ironies is shame fills us with this fear of disconnection, but it is our imperfection that connects us to each other. It is the fact that our shared humanity is imperfect. And so I think if we can find the courage to talk about our lives honestly and our struggles, I think not only does that free us, it gives other people the freedom to be more authentic and real as well.
Right.
I don't think connection is possible without authenticity.
And it's hard to be authentic. There's a price for it.
There's a price for it.
Very. Now, you said that there are 4 things that humans have in common. What are those things with regards to shame?
Well, one of the things that was really powerful, I think, about my work is I have interviewed over 600 men and women now across the country about shame. And across the interviews, men and women with high levels of resilience to shame share 4 things in common. The first is they physically recognize when they're in shame and they know what triggered it. So let's say something happens at work, I make a mistake or something happens, and that warm wash comes over me. You know, that feeling, yes, yeah. We all know it. If I can physically say, oh my God, no, this is shame, I'm in shame, it's very helpful because we are not fit for human consumption when we're in shame. We need to pull away and get regrounded, take some deep breaths and figure out how to respond. One of the things that makes shame worse is normally when we're in it, we act out. For example, the mother that I interviewed, she fills her car up, she goes into the gas station. She goes to pay, her credit card's declined. The man shames her in front of the other patrons, makes her leave her, I think, her wedding band and her wallet and leave with just an ATM card. So she's filled with shame. She gets in the car, she slams the door. When she slams the door, it wakes up her 3-year-old toddler who's in the back seat, who starts screaming. What happens next? She starts screaming back, shut up, shut up.
Right.
So now she's in the shame of having this credit card declined, being belittled in front of people, and now having to deal with the struggle of I'm a horrible mom and why am I taking this out of my child? So men and women with high levels of resilience recognize physically when they're in shame and what triggered it.
Okay.
Then they practice critical awareness. How realistic are the expectations and messages that we put on ourselves or that others put on us that tell us who we're supposed to be? The third thing is men and women with high levels of resilience reach out. We've got to share our story.
So they talk about it.
They talk about it. You know, we breathe through it, we recognize we're in it, and then we call and say, hey, Patricia, it's me, you're not gonna believe what happened. Can you listen? It's hard. And then we speak shame. You know, I try to explain to people the importance of using the word shame. And this is not just lay people. This is mental health professionals.
Right.
You know, we've got to use the word. It's different. If I were to call you and say, oh, Patricia, it's Brene, I'm so embarrassed. That would mean one thing, right? But if I were to call you and say, Patricia, it's Brene, and I'm really struggling with some shame, that's different.
Yeah, it's a different conversation.
Right. Shame cannot hold on when we name it.
Right.
So it's not just, you know, an academic pet peeve. I want everybody to get the semantics correct. Men and women with high levels of shame resilience use the word and talk about the emotion.
How do we learn the attributes of empathy? I mean, if somebody calls you and wants to start having a conversation about shame, you have to have empathy, I think.
It's key. You're exactly right, because what I found in my research is the opposite of experiencing shame is experiencing empathy. Shame cannot survive empathy. I think empathy is tough. I think we have some natural tendencies to be empathic. We care for our fellow humans, but we kind of unlearn empathy as a way to survive almost. And so being empathic is about connecting with your experience. Maybe if you called me and you told me, man, something really shaming happened, Brene, and here's what it is. Maybe I've never had that experience, but what I tell people is, I know grief. I know rage, I know shame, I know fear. If I can dig deep and try to connect to what it is that you're feeling and express that back, not by saying, oh, I know exactly what you're going through, because none of us ever know that, but I know what it feels like to be backed into a corner in front of colleagues at work. So you know you're not alone. Empathy is hugely important, and just an added plus, it's highly correlated with everything from leadership skills, family functioning, good parenting. It's just the essential emotion, I think.